And we're live. It is Wednesday, September 3rd, the year of our Lord 2025. It is 8 o'clock a.m. As you can see, I am not wearing a dog shirt. I am wearing a Vishivanka, and I think you probably know what that means. But I have an important announcement to make before we get to the meat of today's show, which is that I think, but I'm not sure, that I have fixed my internet. And let me tell you the reason that I am confident, but not entirely confident, that I have fixed my internet. So the first reason is that, as you can see here, when I last tested my internet speed, it was blazing. Google informed me that my internet connection is very fast, with a latency of only 11 milliseconds and a 76.4 megabits per second and download time, and a almost as fast upload time. And look, I'm going to test it again, and you're going to see that we are still cruising along at, roughly 60 megabits per second download time. There we go. And the upload time is, coming in just below that, which is to say, just above that, which is to say we have rockin' fast internet speed in Shea Whittis right now. But here is the problem. Here is the source of the uncertainty, my friends and comrades. The fastest internet speed in the world does not solve your internet speed problems if the internet is cutting in and out. Because you can have really fast internet speed 1 second and zero internet speed the next second if, say, there's a kink in the pipe somewhere, or if the gremlins are, just turning off the switch every now and then. And that is, I believe, what was happening to me yesterday and the day before. It's not that the internet speed was really slow, it's that it was going from perfectly normal to not existing at all, kind of intermittently and kind of randomly. And therefore, a single internet test does not actually solve your problem, because you can look at it and you can say, wow, that 47 megabits per second download speed is pretty awesome. And that, wow, 64 megabits per second upload speed is even more awesome. But the problem is then that you don't account for the 0%, the 0 megabits per second upload and download speed that may occur. And so what happens is you satisfy yourself before you come on air that we have good, strong internet. And this is what happened to me yesterday. And then the Swifties show up and you can't talk. And it's not because you have nothing to say about Taylor Swift, though conveniently I also have nothing to say about Taylor Swift. It's not because you don't have questions to ask. It's because the internet goes from blazing fast to zero in no time at all. And the only way you can notice this, the only way you can see it, is other than by being informed by everybody that you've suddenly gone blurry, and you've been and you're cutting in and out, is the percentage of your Riverside file that is uploaded will hover around 20% or 5% or 1% instead of where it should be, which is around 98, 99%. And that will be the sign that things are bad. However, today I'm right at 98%. John
And you cut
Hawkinson is
out
here to
right when you
explain
said the word
something to.
sign, which
What's
is
that?
hilarious. You cut out right when you said the word sign, which is hilarious, but you're back now.
I am back. The point is, folks, that it is that there is no, if you're running the show yourself and you don't have a staff and you don't have tech people and you don't have producers, then inherently the tech problems are part of the show. And we're going to finish the monologue today with John Hawkinson explaining to me something about internet speed tests that I didn't already know.
Oh, so first of all, I apologize. I'm at the United States Federal District Court for the District of Massachusetts, where the internet is worse than yours. So some of your cutting out on as perceived by me may be my fault. I just want to point out that essentially you told us
Yeah, I
that
think
you
the
have no
problem
idea what the
here is on
problem is
John's end,
and you
not
did nothing
mine,
to
because
fix
I
it
think my
and you were just
internet speed
hoping
is
that it doesn't
blazing
come
You
back.
have
fast.
not cut out for me once, Ben.
I have
Let's enjoy
not cut
it.
out for Nastia once. I am here for Nastia. I am here for Elliot.
Indeed.
And I think the problem today is all on John's end, and he showed up on screen to demonstrate the continuity of my internet relative to his own. John, I don't think this is going to work today.
All right, well, let me do that. And is it at, can you, am I at least
All
vaguely
right,
audible?
we're gonna just deal with this.
Apparently not.
Folks, the sun
Farewell.
is
Let
shining.
me just
The
correct my
birds
name
are
before I
chirping.
depart.
It is a cava e vino day, although I'm not sure there's any vino. Uh, uh, and
There
it
are
is
raspberries, if that
there. It's a,
counts.
it's a, what is the word for raspberries in Ukrainian?
Oh, is it raspberries? Not raspberries? Okay. Malina.
Malina?
Malina. Так. But like
Malina.
the y, not the e.
Yeah.
E is Russian sounding. It's
Yeah,
malina.
that is very hard to pronounce for
Like
Americans.
Kyiv.
Like Kyiv. But it's the thing about, all right, let's talk about this for a second, because the thing about the word Kyiv is that when people try to say it, use the KY IV pronunciation in English, they reduce it to one syllable. They say Kiev rather than Kiev, which is the Russian pronunciation. But the thing is, both are wrong. One is the
Exactly.
Russian pronunciation, and the other is an Americanization. It's spelled like Keev. And this is a vowel sound. It actually does exist in Russian. It's the little I don't know what the name of the character is. Um, but it is when you see that Y in Ukrainian, pronounce an E in the back of your mouth. E. Um, so the na or Kyiv,
You're so good.
but it's still two syllables.
This is
Um,
all before getting a tutor. Impressive.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a lot of like background Ukrainian. I just can't speak it at all. All
Need
of
to
which,
acknowledge the most important thing, the tiny baby.
yes. So we have Elliot has shown up. I had no
That's
idea
a
Mike
beautiful
and
name.
Elliot were coming today. So it's like a kava i vino day with baby, who is not Ava. Hello, Mike Feinberg.
Hello. I don't know how long we're going to last, but we'll give it a
However
shot.
long you last, it is awesome.
This has been
What's
a
Um,
morning
the
full of chaos and bodily fluids, so it's
what's the situation? Is he like a fussy baby or can he just chill like that for a while? Like
it
what's the vibe?
we haven't figured it out yet. It seems to
He's
be a
awake right
day
now,
by
right?
if
day.
he were a fussy baby, you'd have figured it out by
Yeah,
now.
no, he's generally good. About once a day, there's like a 20-minute period where we can't figure out for the life of us why he's crying. But other than that, he's pretty chill. He makes noises when he needs to be changed, when he needs to be fed, and other than that, he just hangs out.
Same with Ava. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore. Now Ava is a complete disaster. But when she was
A
that age,
disaster or a disaster?
it's a complete disaster. Yes.
Um, all right. Well, the sun is shining. The birds are chirping. It's going to be a great. Oh, I can say fucking because Holly's not here to get offended. It's
Elliot
going
is
to be.
here.
It's going to be.
Elliot has heard much
Yeah,
worse.
he's too
Trust
young
me.
to care. It's going to be a great fucking day, and you are watching Dog Shirt TV. It is a goddamn revolution in one of the in morning television, and one of the revolutionary features, of which there are many, is that sometimes we replace the vina with Molina, and it becomes a Cava y Molina day, and I have a lot of trouble pronouncing that. And another one of the revolutionary features is that sometimes we have surprise babies who show up and stay as long as they will, in their parents' word, last. All of which is a long winded way of saying that we're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have Nastia and Mike. And Nastia texted me earlier this morning that she had two pieces of scandalous news for us today. So we're going to start with that. What is
Yeah.
the scandalous news and gossip?
It's great. It's that kind of content that I'm not gonna write about in my newsletter because it's not like the top Ukraine related headline in the world, and it's too niche. Like I'm gonna have to write like a whole essay explaining one thing. But it's something that we can talk about here, straight from the Ukrainian Facebook rabbit hole for you. So one of the big scandals, it's like truly massive in the Ukrainian civil society right now, is regarding the Ukrainian Catholic University, UKU, as it's known here. It's located in Lviv. It's basically the best university in the country. That and also the Kyiv Mohyla Academy in Kyiv are like the two top universities. But UKU is really loved because it receives a lot of money from like the religious emigres, the Ukrainian conservative community, the kind of idiots who voted for Trump, kind of thing. And just in general, like Catholic, religion has a lot of money. You guys know this, and they fund a lot of universities and stuff. So it's very, very well funded by private money, which means that it's really nice. Like the campus is like the only campus in Ukraine that looks like a foreign university, like an American university. We don't have that. Like our campuses are old and disgusting. And it has like a lot of like fancy foreign professors come in. And anyway, it's like considered very progressive, not in terms of the ideology, because it is ultimately a Catholic university, but in terms of like the infrastructure that's available. So it's very well loved, it's very popular, despite it being Catholic. And so there is a scandal now, because a famous Ukrainian playwright, I guess her name is the person who makes movies, one of the people who makes movies, her daughter was got into the university. She was like 2 weeks before moving in there, like going to Lviv to move in. This was just like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And she was supposed to be part of like, it's kind of like a sorority, but not really. It's just like a residence living situation for the university, but it's kind of like a special community where like you're not entitled to a spot in that building. Like you have to kind of go through a special application process to live there. But it's not like gender kind of thing where like it's a sorority or a, what's the other thing for boys?
Fraternity.
Yeah. It's just like a gender neutral kind of thing, like a community. Anyway, so she was supposed to be living there. She had a spot, she went through interview process, whatever. And then like a week before she was supposed to move in, they emailed her, called the mom, this famous playwright, saying that her spot was revoked. And like that's it, that their only option is renting an apartment, which
Was Dan Bongino responsible for the revocation?
or that, what's the crazy woman with a crazy life story?
Yeah, Laura Loomer.
Laura
Or
Loomer.
her.
Yeah, exactly.
Or her.
Another real winner on the American political scene.
Exactly. By the way, can we unpack that at some point, Ben? I have so many questions.
Yeah, we can talk. We can talk about Laura Loomer.
Great.
Do any of us actually understand her?
No, but that's shouldn't stop us. I mean,
No, no.
you know. Anyway,
So
so
anyway,
why was her spot revoked?
so her spot was revoked, as the mom then found out when she followed up and called and left a bunch of emails, was because, according to the woman who was on the other end of the phone, some administrator from the university, because they went through her Instagram, very American Laura Loomer vibes, and found a picture there with an emoji of an rainbow flag supporting LGBT. And they said that that doesn't align with the values of the university, and she can't be a part of this community residency situation. And when the mom pressed about it, being like, this is ridiculous, we're like a week away. Like, what are we supposed to do? She's supposed to start school in a week. Also, Lviv, keep in mind, that's where all the refugees go. So the
Right.
price for apartments, and also that's where all the Westerners are, apart from Kyiv. So the price for apartments is ludicrous. It's like nearly higher than the ones in the capital in Kyiv. It's super expensive. Like, even if I moved there. So it was just a disastrous situation. And they were like, well, we can offer her like this other option, some apartments we have for like the professors who come and visit or whatever, but only if she deletes that post and promises or pledges to us that she's not gonna promote the LGBT values at the school, which obviously this 17-year-old girl was like, over my dead body, right? I mean, that's what I would do. So anyway,
Right, because she's not a law firm.
uh,
If she were a law firm,
Exactly.
she'd be like, fine, whatever.
yes, let me sell my soul and my
But a
values to the devil.
17-year-old girl,
Yes.
is fundamentally oppositional.
I mean, yes, it's a part of, it's what defines you as a 17-year-old
Right.
person.
Right.
So anyway, now the entire Ukrainian Facebook and civil society is like, posting their takes about it, because on the one hand, everyone associates UKU with this like progressivism that's not really ideological, but in terms of like the education system, like as far as the education system goes, it's super progressive. It's beautiful. The actual quality of education is very high, which is also true for a lot of religious schools, right? Like some of the best schools in the U.S., I think, are like Catholic schools.
Well, the Jesuits,
because they have the money.
The Jesuits in particular, it's not just a money thing. The Jesuits are famously interested in education from 400 years ago, and there are many great American universities, including Georgetown locally, that are Jesuit institutions. And
is that something I should know if I decide to apply there for master's?
I mean, Georgetown, it is. Georgetown is probably the most gently Catholic university but it's kind of the jewel of the Jesuit system. But I mean, many famous American universities, Notre Dame, right, are, and then there are non-Jesuit Catholic universities as well, including in the district Catholic University, which is directly administered by the Vatican. That's a much more sort of hard-edged, but no, the Catholic Church, particularly the Jesuits in the United States, run great universities, and they do it in a very ecumenical fashion. Actually, it's not a I have and they also run very fine secondary institutions. It's a very there's a lot people complain about the Catholic Church, but their educational values are exemplary, and
one good thing that I've heard about it. The one good thing that I know about the
well, I am not in any sense an anti-Catholic, but I am. But look, it's the church has its detractors and its devotees. There is just no question that they run great universities. The those universities do have um, uh, there are these areas where the church's professed values in other areas, LGBT stuff is one, reproductive rights is another, where, um, uh, what do you do if you're Georgetown University and there's a pro-choice group that wants to form on campus? And, those questions are issues that have come up in Catholic universities around the country for a long time. I have never heard of one revoking the admission or the housing of an individual kid over
An emoji, like
an
it's
emoji.
crazy.
And so yeah, that's so what has the university said about it?
I mean, so what smart people pointed out, smarter than me, who know more than me, and like current professors of the university, for example, or like visiting professors, who are all like part of this like Ukrainian modern intelligentsia kind of people. They were like, look, you guys think that Katolitsky or like the Catholic in the name is just there for like, that it's like a non-serious things, but no, this is a Catholic university. And like nobody thinks about that because you like the beautiful white library, but it is a Catholic institution. And so, that doesn't sort of justify what happened. But it is true that like as a private institution, it has the right to like enforce its own laws and things like that. The problem though is that then that's what those people point out, that like the university should be more honest about its position on these things. So basically what the university is trying to do is like, as we say, sit on two chairs at once. It's trying, like, it has like a small minority of like radicals, both in the student body and like the administrative body, who like wanted to be like a conservative Ukrainian sort of religious institution, and then a bunch of like random kids who are, probably don't care either way, and then some far left. It's kind of like a usual thing. But the university, if it's doing something like this, it has to then post on its website like, when you apply, we're profiling you that you fit these values, and like list these and be like forthcoming about this instead of.
And do we know how they found her? Like, did they just randomly select her? This one, we're going through her social media history.
We don't know that.
It's kind of like how Dan Bongino found out Mike Feinberg was friends with Pete Strzok. Like, how did they find out she's friends with Pete Strzok?
Is this why you were fired, Mike? Because
no.
you went through your social media?
No, because I had no social media at the time.
And it's because you're friends with someone who they don't like.
Yeah, it's because, so I wasn't fired. I was basically
It's because if he had social media, he would have posted a little rainbow heart emoji.
Yes.
And
I'm very
Bongino
much
kind of figured that out.
Bongino is only into like the fist and the bombs and the fire emojis. Those are the only emojis they're in for. Anyway, so, now there is a mix, and it's actually a very interesting conversation because it's sort of indicative of the larger Ukrainian dynamic of like, we are constantly figuring out how to balance our historical conservative national identity and also our European aspirations and that kind of part of our identity. And it's always this conflict, like, how do we integrate with the EU and, pass all those laws and become a part of the European society, whatever that means, while also not selling out our national identity. And there are like, it's an open debate, and it's a very complicated debate. And like this university case is like just the latest part of it, because like a lot of people again be like, okay, we're now canceling OKU, but it's also objectively the best education institution we have in the country. Like, what good does that do? And it's like that very typical Ukrainian problem of like, we have to stop like bickering. Like we have to stop canceling people and things on Facebook. Like we have to kind of think of the bigger picture. And it's like, if you go down in history, it's like a huge problem we have. Like it's one of the reasons Bolsheviks defeated us because we started bickering among ourselves. It really goes down in history.
So explain something to me. The Catholic Church is a minority church in Ukraine. It's
Very
kind of
much
a
so.
it's kind of a Western Ukrainian.
Yeah, it's like Greek Catholic or whatever. Греко-католицька церква.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an Orthodox rite of the Catholic Church, but the majority of the country is Eastern Orthodox.
Yes.
And it's only the area that was Austro-Hungarian at one point, centered in Lviv, that is, that is where Catholicism
Or the
is.
Polish Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is the cultural influence of the Catholic Church? I mean, when it does something like this, and are people outside of Western Ukraine like, just kind of have an eye roll reaction to it, or is it, or could this happen in in an area that was more Orthodox?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's that's not a divide we have in any sense. Well, I guess Western Ukraine is more conservative. I guess, yes. The Greek Catholics, they're a bit more conservative. Well, because it like actually matters to them, as in like they're actually practicing their stated religious affiliation. Here, when you're like if you go and ask people, they're gonna say that they're Eastern Orthodox, and if you ask them if they go to church, they're gonna say no, like most likely. So it's that kind of thing where like I was baptized, I learned who Jesus Christ is in university when I took the religion studies course. Why I was baptized, I will never know. Like, because everyone did it. We went to church for Pascha, what is it called? Easter. Has my mom ever opened a Bible? She has not. Like, it's just a part of the fabric of the society.
Interesting.
So it's more
So
of like, so it's more of like, are you liberal minded and young, or are you older and conservative? Is the divide.
But in the West, there is it's more like culturally Polish, and people are actually
Let's not
religious
say
Catholic.
culturally Polish. No.
No, I don't mean that.
Especially
I mean,
right now, we have some to work through there.
Come on.
About who killed who.
It was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It was part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It's Catholic. The language is closer to Polish.
But it's Ukrainian Greek Catholics, trust me. They're going to tell you all the stories about how the Poles slaughtered them, just like the other side will.
Okay. All right, so tell me about the other scandal.
The other scandal is probably more interesting for you and more actually important for Ukraine. But you guys have seen the flamingo missile, the pink missile.
Awesome pink missile thing. Speaking of, it needs that emoji on it, though.
Yes, that would be awesome. I wish they kept the pink color. Anyway, so the company that produced that missile is called Firepoint. It's a Ukrainian, your typical defense startup. And so I think like a week ago, the Kyiv Independent, which is the media that I used to work for and I no longer work at, published an article based on their anonymous sources at NABU, speaking of NABU, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, saying that NABU, this bureau...
Which is still independent.
Yes. Fingers crossed. Nearly had a little Maidan over that, but anyway, so they published an article quoting their sources at NABU that NABU was... that there was an ongoing investigation into this company, Firepoint, about their production of drones. They also make really good drones. and about the possible ties between this company and one of Zelensky's cronies, one of his friends, this guy Timur Mindic. He is the co-owner. Wait, a lot of Ukrainian context. That's dense. Okay, before Zelensky became president, he was a TV star. He had a big
He
production.
had a production company.
Yes, he had a big production company that made very successful movies, shows, etc. That production company, he co-owned it with this guy Timur Mindic, who is still a close associate of his. And so the article is alleging that Timur Mindic may be the ultimate beneficiary of this Firepoint company. So like your typical thing, like you give the state contract to a guy close to you and who ends up making money off of that. So that caused a shit of a firestorm, of course, because like Flamingo was just released. Everyone is like, oh my God, Firepoint, amazing, incredible, you know. They obviously did it on purpose. Like the company went on a whole marketing kind of tour. Like they leaked those photos, let the journalists like come to their facility. And then Ki publishes this. And so everyone is talking about it. Nabu, because people start reaching out to them for comments, say they publish like one sentence of a statement saying that there are no ongoing investigations in relation to the Flamingo missile. That's all they say. They don't mention the drones. They don't mention the company.
This is why you do not comment on a pending investigation, because you know
It gets
any
you just make it
statement you
worse.
make can be parsed.
Exactly. So then I think the director or like some sort of CEO of the company, some person from Firepoint, reaches out to Kyiv Independent and starts threatening them, and it gets really ugly, saying that all of it is bullshit, like there are no investigations, blah blah blah, like saying, look, Nabu like said that there are no investigations, which is of course not what they said. They only commented on the specific missile. And
The
then
Flamingo missile itself is not suspected of any corruption.
which is part of the joke that Ki chief editor then made, that like that the like is this missile so good that it can even be like the subject, or what's the lingo I'm looking for, like when you're like a person that can be subject to an investigation, but you have to be a person, like yuridична особа in Ukrainian. Anyway, she's like, this is an innate object, like of course it's not being investigated, like that kind of thing. Anyway, so this guy from the company reaches out to the chief editor of the Kyiv Independent, I think, and like starts saying that all this is bullshit, sends over a letter. I don't know what, like I haven't seen the letter. The chief editor just talked about it, but nobody posted the letter, from Nabu, supposedly confirming there are no investigations. Oля, or my former chief editor at Ki, says that that's not what the letter says. And what's the worst thing is that the person from the Firepoint company is threatening to go to the SBU, which is, doesn't like Nabu because they're like, Siloviki wars in Ukraine, like in Russia. Like we have different like security agencies that don't like each other. So he's threatening to file something to the SBU and have them open a case against Ki for treason, and saying that we're endangering Ukraine's missile program, and that Ki, like who is even funding Ki, like your typical kind of.
It sounds like DC right now.
It sounds like the entire defense industry writ large, and pretty much
literally
anything. For some reason, this is an industry that is absolutely rife. Maybe it's the nature of like sole source bidding and
the
fact that they're making things that other industries cannot easily ramp up on. But I mean, on the back shelf, I've got a history of Krupp that goes back to like the 1500s, and this has been sort of endemic to the armaments manufacturers from time immemorial.
There is a really good book that my friend is reading right now. It's about, but I forget the name. It's about how the American defense industry works, and like all that is wrong with it. I really want to read it.
It's the worst
probably full of
thing in the world, except everything else.
Well,
You know,
I'm 24. I'm kind of like that 17-year-old. Not as
no,
much,
no,
but a little
but
bit. I'm
like
like
if you listen to
oppositional to
Minna,
this stuff.
if you listen to Minna uh talk about the European defense industry,
Very bad.
which is a disaster as well, right? Just in a completely different way, right?
No, but I
And
mean like bad people, like evil corporations,
there are bad people
playing
and evil
millions of us
corporate. Like nobody goes into the weapons manufacturing
to be
business
nice about it.
out of the love of their fellow
I mean, I
man.
don't know. Okay, well, the Nordics, are they doing some stuff that's just like ethical? If the only people they kill are Russians, I'm okay with that.
Oh, wait a minute. A weapon is a neutral thing. It doesn't like a
Okay.
weapon doesn't have a target's name on it. Weapons are made for, for
Unless we
strategic,
sign stuff onto the drones we send to Russia, which we send.
right, the emojis that you
Yes.
put on the,
Yes.
but like um when you are a arms manufacturing company, you can pretend that there are values. But at the end of the day, the values are the values of the policymakers that are deploying them.
Is that
I
always true? I'm
I
gonna be
think
naive
so.
here, but like, could you not have restraints on, export controls and
You do.
guidelines?
Every nation in the world has export controls for both armaments and dual use technologies, which are ostensibly civilian technologies that can be modified for aggressive political purposes. Um, but I think, to Ben's point, to go on a digression for 1 second, Ben, this is how I first became aware of you. Um,
What?
no,
I know exactly where you're going with
this
this.
is when I was living in California. I had a couple friends who worked for The Atlantic, and one of the people I followed, who I did not know but moved in that circle, was a blogger named Connor Friedersdorf, and you guys had
We had a
uh,
debate about
a
drones.
big debate about drones, and he was making the argument that they're fundamentally an immoral technology, and you were making the argument that they're just a
Oh,
technology. The use
I
makes it.
have to say, there are areas of my work that have not stood up well.
and it's one of
Uh,
those?
no, no, no.
It's not.
But I was one of the only people that was publicly making the case for drones. Um,
Oof.
uh, in those years, and I was
Was this?
having
2010,
2012,
2011. Yeah.
13, 14, and I was making the case for drones, including in circumstances that were very hostile, like the Oxford Union, where I had to put on a
Right.
tuxedo in order
I
to
remember.
get booed by lots of young students,
They
all of whom
booed you?
today they did not like I lost that debate. And I have to say I did very well. But I was that was not the popular position. And my good friend Tom Malinowski, now former congressman, made a video about me and autonomous weapons based on the Terminator. No, I mean, like, this was an unpopular position, and every single one of these people now would describe themselves as pro-Ukraine, and they have not, like, and by the way, Connor Friedersdorf is the exception. Connor Friedersdorf has, I don't know whether he's rethought his position about on drones, but he actually, I want to give Connor a lot of credit. He, on a different set of issues related to uh, predictions about the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, he wrote a very lovely and thoughtful article about the areas in which I was right. But look, drones are now a, if you don't like the strategic use of them, you don't call them drones anymore. You call them glide bombs. You call them, you use some other name for it. But the word drone has taken on a bit of a different meaning than it used to have. And the idea of autonomous weapons is not taboo anymore, because they have such obviously valid defensive purposes. And, you can't look at the missile defense, the air defenses in Ukraine, and in Israel, and not see value in autonomy. You just can't do it. And so I think it has mostly muted that. But this was an unpopular position pretty recently.
Not in the circles I moved in, for what it's worth. Uh,
I wrote
we were
an essay in college that's like a rite of passage for a young person studying political science about how evil Obama's war in Iraq and Syria was, and the targeting issues and the civilian deaths and everything.
So I will make what is probably going to be an unpopular point amongst our audience. Those targets were going to be eradicated no matter what. The
Okay,
fact,
pack that.
I mean, like, I have a very, and I hate how John Mearsheimer has corrupted this word to basically mean something it's not. But like, I have a pretty realist foreign view of foreign policy, by which I mean, like, I think nations are generally not going to be constrained by anything other than self-interest. I'm very much a skeptic of international institutions and international law as a moderating force when the rubber hits the road. And so I sort of believe that, like, conflict is the default status of the world. The sort of holiday that my generation enjoyed from roughly 1989 up until 2001 really was just a holiday in which history and historical trends were sort of absent. So I think there's always going to be armed conflict in the world. But the reason I say drones were very popular among my circle is, like, given what I was doing at the time this debate was going on, I was dealing with a lot of military personnel. And the use of drones not only made them safer in the sense that you didn't have squads or platoons going out and carrying out these raids, they also made the individuals around the target safer, because generally drones are more accurate weapon systems than, say, a cruise missile. Or at least a drone is a smaller armament, it's a bit more pinpointed. The collateral damage, as awful as that word is, in the sense that it provides a euphemism for what is essentially death,
Is
like,
lower.
yeah, the use of drones
I,
has lowered the number of civilians killed through mishaps.
so a couple things about this. People
I agree with that.
persistently conflate the policy of targeted killing, that is targeting individuals, and what the Ukrainians have shown this time is that you use drones in situations that have nothing to do with targeted killing, right? You're hitting positions in a Russian front line in a very conventional military front, and you use a drone because you can control it remotely and it's safer, rather than an artillery position. So first of all, separate the weapon system from the strategic objective. We were trying to kill individual terrorists in the Fatah in Pakistan, in Yemen, and later in Syria and Iraq. That is the question of how you do that, whether you do that by parachuting in a team, or helicoptering in a team, as in the Osama bin Laden raid, or with a drone, is a choice of weapon. It's not a choice of policy question. Number one, separate the question of what your political, what the military objective is, from the choice of weapon. Number two, separate the question of whether the target is a lawful target from the choice of weapon. If it is moral and ethical and legal to walk up to somebody with a pistol and shoot him in the head. It's moral and ethical and legal to fly a drone into his head. The choice of weapon is not a surrogate for choice of target. It's not the same question. And then finally, and this is the only question that matters to me, is the use of the individual weapon, whatever it is, likely to be A, more or less accurate, and B, have more or less capacity for civilian damage. And the great advantage to a drone is twofold. It is one of the only weapons around that is simultaneously a weapon and a surveillance platform. And that means you can aim in real time as you're targeting, right? It's not like you point a gun at somebody and pull a trigger and then you have no control over the bullet. This, you have control over the bullet. And the bullet is itself a surveillance platform. That is good for both accuracy and civilian protection. And number two, it has loiter time. And loiter time is there is no other weapon in the history of the world that has had the ability to hover and wait until the civilian goes to the bathroom before it launches its missile.
You're
Now,
preaching to the choir, Ben.
no, I mean, look, all of these points are no longer controversial.
And it's important to
But
note.
this is, if you go back to the video of my debate with Connor Friedersdorf, whom I like and I think highly of, and I'm not criticizing, or my debates with Tom Malinowski, who is a close friend, and these were controversial points.
Why?
These were the points on which I lost at the Oxford Union. You know, they were controversial because robots are big and scary, and the Terminator, and I mean, look, I can only say to you, go back and look at the debate as it was in 2012, 2013. None of these points were the idea that you could separate the platform from the targeted killing. By the way, policy, and by the way, I support the targeted killing policy. I think it was good. I think that's actually how we wiped out Al Qaeda.
We have to
Not
talk about this later, Ben.
not the invasion of Iraq.
Getting
Not
real triggered here.
but Kate.
Hey guys, hi Nastya
Hey.
and Mike for the first time. I have quick questions for both Nastya and Mike. First, Nastya, I did really like, I commented on your Substack. I like the Kirkinis article. I don't know how to pronounce that. Reporting. What I found very interesting was some of the friendly feelings that the Norwegians had up there to the Russians. And I just pictured to myself you talking to these people and hearing them say positive things about their Russian neighbors. And I wondered if that drove you nuts.
Yeah. But to be fair, I don't think I've only met maybe like a couple of people
Okay.
who had some kind of problematic feelings. And then I've also met actual Russians there. That was much more triggering than the Norwegians. That I just kind of went into the other room when they showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of this was in the past, like in the before the full-scale invasion. That's
Okay.
when all of these locals had really problematic opinions. Now, like, the local mayor said that he can make me honorary citizen of Kirkenes, and he like waves the Ukrainian flag, and like they're all very nice ever since the full-scale invasion.
Well, the other quick thing about that was there was an article in the 1843, which is the Economist sister publication about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, about Kirkenes.
And then Mike, real quick, back to your kind of realistic perspective, question that I've been kind of needling in my head for a while about the PRC nuke buildup.
Yeah.
A lot of the commentary, whenever you read about the nuke buildup, they always say, but the Chinese have not changed their no first use policy yet. So they still have that policy intact. And what goes through my head is, okay, only until they say we're not abiding by that anymore. I mean, why make that caveat when you could just simply revoke that proclamation at any time? I mean, once you get 1,000 nukes, you could just say, all right, we're not going to abide that anymore. I don't understand why that makes everyone feel safer when you can just renege on that.
It's not a question of safety, and this is going to sound glib. I don't mean it to. I think it's a matter of sort of like gentlemanly warfare. I'm only aware of one country that does not have a no first use policy, or two countries that do not have a no first use policy. Ben, you may be able to correct me on this one. I think Israel, because they've never acknowledged their
Well,
nuclear.
Israel doesn't acknowledge that it has the weapons at all.
Right. The only nation I know whose military doctrine actually allows for both first use and also for the use of tactical nuclear weapons as a means of bringing people to a negotiating table will surprise no one, especially Nastya, is Russia. In terms of Chinese military development, their advances in nuclear technology and the upgrading of their nuclear forces is not actually what worries me. What worries me is sort of the Venn diagram where they're what we call A2AD, which is anti-area access denial operations coincide with, to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, autonomous weapons and AI developed weapon swarms. That's where I think China can get really dangerous. I'm relatively phlegmatic about nuclear proliferation. Maybe that's an incredibly naive view, but it's not one of the things that keeps me up at night.
I agree. I agree. It just seems kind of silly to me that everyone's just taking this statement as a matter of, reliability. Like, oh, well, they still have their no first use policy. Like, that's okay. But, we're not going to invade Ukraine until we do. I mean, it's like, you can spout out lies all you want until it's in your national self-interest to, use a nuke first or whatever. I don't know. I just...
And the Russians literally did that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
They kept saying we're not going, and then the next day they did.
I don't disagree. Nations are no more trustworthy than the people who lead them. And the people who choose to go into executive politics and lead countries are generally probably not the people who have the innate sense of humility that would make them particularly moral and good at that job.
Right.
So
and the other thing, not for today, because I know we're running low on time, but Ben, maybe for a lawfare podcast too, the situation with Sandy K in the South China Sea seems to be getting a bit problematic. I was reading that the Chinese planted a flag there, and I think the issue with that is that the territorial waters of Sandy K overlap with the territorial waters of T2. I don't know how to pronounce that, which is Philippines. And I know there's been that recent crash out there. So I'm kind of just on my radar is a Filipino Chinese clash in the South China Sea. The Chinese, we don't defend the Philippines. And then next up is Taiwan, which could be an issue.
It's a really good point. We should
especially for the maritime law crowd. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you, Kate.
I'm trying to leave.
It's all right. You take your time.
Hang out.
People don't always figure out how to leave and sometimes end up staying. All right, Mike, what is on your mind this morning before we run out of time? Do you have scandals to report? Nastya brought 2 scandals today. Do you have any scandals?
I mean, the only scandals are the ongoing attempts in my household to figure out an equitable wake and take care of the baby.
Yeah, there's nothing. Equity is impossible in this regard.
Is this your first child?
What's that?
Is this your first child? Like, is this all new?
Yeah. This is totally new to us.
Amazing.
We've got a pretty good system worked out. Basically, I take, daytime is relatively easy. We cover for each other if the other needs a nap or has work stuff to do. And then basically I take roughly 8 to 11, 8 to midnight in the evening. My wife will take from the end of that shift until about 4 in the morning. And then I'm much more an early morning person than she is. So anything that happens in that particular witching hour around 4 a.m., I basically take over.
As long as there's the two of you, it's gonna work out. I don't know how women who have terrible husbands, which is a lot of women in Ukraine.
There are definitely days over the past month my wife would probably use that appellation for me, but
It's the hormones. Don't take it
that's what she
personally.
tells me. That's what she
It's
always tells me the next day, but it's
literally, yes. No, but I just not to make this about me. We're talking about babies and that kind of stuff. But I just remember that like nobody tells you that you can barely sit or walk after you give birth.
oh
Like,
yeah,
you
it's
know, like I
weird.
knew I'm not gonna sleep, but the fact that I can barely get out of bed, like literally physically stand up and walk, like that's not something I
Well,
was.
for us, it was even, I guess for my wife, I shouldn't be saying us, it was even worse because it was an unplanned C-section.
Oh yeah.
So, and
And
we're
mine-
in and Ben's been here, we're in a 3-story house.
Oh,
Like nothing about this is particularly easy. So
mhm.
what we've done is basically just solve it by buying double of everything. And we
And
have
put it on
like
different floors.
yeah, so we've got like the diaper stations and the feeding stations on each floor, so either of us could jump in and take over. And we had for about the first month or so a steady stream of family and friends coming in as well. And
Nice.
that's picking up again tomorrow, actually. So
Folks, you've squandered another hour watching dog shirt TV, as they used to say on Car Talk. Um, the chat is abuzz with debate about yesterday's Taylor Swift show. And I want to say, as a non Taylor Swift person, no apologies. I sometimes the greater Wittes cinematic universe explodes with demand for something. And yesterday it was, multiple people in my life saying, including John Hawkinson, including Janine Balechian, whom I've been meaning to out as a former OLC lawyer. Um, you know, by the way, I just want to say a word about Janine. Janine uh, started coming on uh, being a Greek chorus member when she was clerking for a federal judge and then kept coming on when she went to work for OLC. And, she would, you think all these people that are, showing up on screen here are, uh, I don't know, independent, retired, or freelance journalists or whatever. But some of them are sitting government officials, and um, and Janine did that. Never made a secret of it. By the way, I met Janine because she like started commenting on my tweets back when I was on Twitter. Now we're like fast friends, and yes, she is a deranged Swiftie. And I think she is the only completely deranged cosplaying Swiftie who has ever worked at OLC. But
I'll say when I joined Blue Sky about a month ago, I made a discovery that Marty Letterman listens to all the same old punk and post-punk bands that I do because every couple of weeks he'll post about a concert he went to that makes me realize OLC can be a lot cooler than I ever thought possible.
It's true. And Marty is unusually outgoing for an OLC
Yeah.
person too. But he's not in Janine's league in terms of, extroversion. And
Yeah.
so I just wanted to don't think the OLC people are all nameless, faceless, because some of them are in the Greek chorus, hanging out with you guys, and demanding that I do Taylor Swift shows. And when Anna Bauer and Janine and Catherine Pompilio get together with John Hawkinson and demand something of me, I am always, always, always going to comply with that. And it's not even a question. And so, uh, uh, look, folks, we're going to be back tomorrow. I have no idea who the hosts are going to be. Mike showed up this morning completely unexpected. Uh, Nastia, I texted this morning and said, "You're coming on the show today, right?" And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I miss you." And she said, "That's a good reason." And I was supposed
She
to
knows
be in
how to do it with me.
and I was supposed to be in Kiev this week, and I didn't go because I lost my passport, and I have toys for Ava that I'm going to
Yes.
have to send by mail. And so you never know who's going to be on the show tomorrow just because, that happens or because they show up unexpectedly like Mike did. So here's what I know. I'll be there. You'll be there. And probably